everyone, and welcome to another episode of my Woman Who Inspires series. I am Sreshtha. I am a motivational speaker and a wholeness guide. At heart, I just want mental freedom for women. Hence, this series was born as a way to help me show women that our emotions or the things that we go through that we may deem as negative are actually things that help us on our life journey, help push us forward, help us build skills, and in some cases, brings us to a much better person. So today, I'm really excited to have Susan Cohen with us. Susan is a former training director from a national retail chain. She's a former adjunct instructor of education for Barry University. She's a supervisor and mentor of student teachers, a parent educator for almost 25 years, a mommy and me teacher, a positive behavior specialist, mother of two sons, one of whom is deceased, and the proud grandmother of two amazing teens. She's blessed with a beautiful family, good friends, and a fulfilling, joyous life that keeps her evolving because she's always evolving. She's also the owner of Life Joy LLC, and she is from Florida. She has a master's degree in guidance counseling from New York University. Thank you so much for joining us today, Susan. Welcome to our Woman Who Inspires series. How are you today?
Oh, very well. Thank you. It is such a gift and a blessing to be here. I'm so thrilled. Thank you so much for this opportunity and privilege.
Yes, and I'm really grateful for you too. I actually only met Susan, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. And when I invited her to come to speak on the series, given our meeting, she was so inviting and so just all encompassing and all sweet hugs. That's all you feel, sweet hugs from her. So, Suzanne, I'm going to invite you to share your emotional healing journey with us.
Yes, thank you so much. It's such a privilege, as I said, to share and to be here with you on your audience. So this goes back many years ago when my children were quite young. And I was in a marriage that became very toxic. And, I was raised in that typical patriarchal family. And so it was very respectful to parents, etc. But I learned, that we didn't deal with feelings or emotions. And I didn't learn really how to speak up for myself. And also, I had interpreted or misinterpreted a lot of the messages that my parents were giving me that I took personally. So I thought that, and my parents were wonderful people, lovely, fine people, but they didn't have the skills to realize that when you're constantly and consistently telling a person that, or little one that's impressionable, and pointing out all the, what you're doing wrong, or blaming you for their feelings, or criticizing you and comparing you, that I noticed I took it personally and I internalized that. And so I did not know how to be my own best friend. I was so critical of myself. So when I married, I really didn't have the skills for communication or relationship. I just knew I wanted to be well loved, and we should be kind with each other, and let's talk out our differences, and let's just be warm and nurturing, Well, unfortunately, my marriage didn't quite become that way, and it became very toxic, and at times very abusive in the way communication was dealt. And I got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't feel heard. I didn't even feel like I had a partner, that I even had a friend by my side. I felt I just couldn't take it anymore. And I prayed so hard, because it was the hardest decision of my life, because I had two sons, 3.5 and 7. And I only wanted the best for them, as we all do as parents. And one day I woke up and I totally knew the truth. And it literally set me free, And I asked my my then husband for divorce. And of course, he was very upset because we had tried to work on our marriage, but he always thought it was my fault. Everything. He wasn't willing to take any accountability. And when I finally got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, I felt I was dying inside. I was getting close to 40. I didn't want to live out in a way my parents' marriage. And I just wanted a happy, healthy, emotionally and mentally healthy, marriage in which to raise our children and to have our children in a healthy environment where it's peaceful and just kind, and where the children can just flourish. So what happened is I asked my husband for a divorce, and all hell broke loose. Of course, he was very hurt, and he took that hurt and became quite vindictive. And I had to get a restraining order at one time. I was so stressed. He took away all the money. He wouldn't give me a penny. My son came down with chicken pox. As I was taking my younger son to preschool, I got into an automobile accident. It was minor, thank God. And then I had a health condition that came up as well. So it was like everything I felt was piled up on my shoulders. And I remember saying that I am so low that I can't get any lower. I said, I can't get any lower, but I have 2 children to be able to be responsible for. I said, I am determined to overcome this, and I am going to triumph. And that was the beginning of my journey to myself, to my soul. And I thought I would buy like a little Triumph car or something as a visualization for me, to hold in front of me, to keep saying, triumph, triumph, you're going to triumph over this. You're going to see, you're going to triumph. And I was determined I would hold 3 jobs if I had to, whatever it took to take care of my kids. So I started this class. Someone had told me about this class, and it was on creative living. And I called to inquire, and they said, I said, well, please tell me what this class is about. They said it's about patterns. And I'm like, patterns? I said, the only patterns I know are patterns from sewing, because I sewed. And I had no clue. Well, that was my introduction to myself, to journaling, to becoming aware that all that I was seeking wasn't outside of myself, but it was inside of me. And that began my journey. And I did numerous personal growth and development classes. I had to learn how to fall in love with myself. I was my own worst enemy. Honestly, Sreshtha, I was my own worst enemy. That all those messages that I interpreted, that I was not enough as a kid, that I really believed about myself. My self-esteem or my self-worth, my self-value was so low that I had no idea why anybody would love me. Do you know, when my children were born, I questioned, gosh, I wonder why my children would love me. But I didn't know how to love myself. And so I've made it a lot of my life's work in how do I change those beliefs? How do I start learning to be my own best friend instead of my own enemy? I had to learn how to replace this criticism. I had to become aware and pay attention to how I was feeling, and just open myself up to learning and growing, and realize that, my gosh, I am, as we all are, made in the image and likeness of our Creator, however we define our Creator, however we define that inner power. And we have that inside of us. And that's what I had to learn, and what I had to discover and uncover. Because growing up, I always thought God was someone out in the sky with the beard, and I realized, no, God is inside of me. God is all around. Wow. So I had to look with new eyes. And it's been such a blessing because, I love that quote from Einstein. It's something like, to the effect that either you look at life as nothing, or you look at life as a miracle. And to realize that I have the choice. I do not have to be at the effect of my conditioning. I do not have to be at the effect. I'm not a victim anymore. I don't have to be a victim or victimized by outside circumstances, conditions, my own thinking, my own feelings, my own beliefs, that I can have the ability to be able to change it with God's help inside me, as however we define that, and to find the connection inside of me that I have that source. And then I realize, it's all a gift. It's all a gift. And I thank my ex-husband. I thank my father, Mom. They're the biggest teachers for me. Of course, they were innocent and they meant the best, but it was my perception. And so to take accountability and responsibility for myself, for my feelings, my thoughts, the way I view the world. And I'm just so grateful for how it has opened up.
Yeah, that story really just epitomizes this series. Just where you started growing up in a patriarchal family. And your story is interesting too, because in the Caribbean, where I am from, we believe that these things that you experience are homogenous to here. We don't believe that it happens outside of here. So for you to speak up similar things that we hear in the Caribbean witness, where we don't feel our feelings or emotions, and where we misinterpret our parents' intentions. They have good intentions, but they at that time didn't know how to communicate that. And they were just doing what they thought was best, not knowing that it was really harming us the way we thought and what it was wiring within us. And the fact that you talk about taking that into marriage. So we are coming out of it, I think, now, but before, the natural path, natural progression was you go on to get married. And the thing is, we go into marriage without healing what happened in our childhood. We take all of that. And because of that, and our self-worth is what we think we are in childhood, so we end up marrying someone at the level of that self-worth, which may not be that much. But even though you ended up in a marriage that turned out toxic, you, at a time where I believe divorce may not have been an easy decision, you took that decision to say, no, I am a survivor, and you decided to come out of that situation. Something that I can only imagine how difficult it is. The fact that you spoke about you had to get a restraining order, using prayer as one of your tools, and then also having this health condition and everything kind of happening with your kids at the same time, not letting that deter you, and deciding to build your skills to find out, how do you replace those negative thoughts? How do you learn to love you? And when you speak now, you could tell that you are just completely filled with love. And I want to ask you, so after you did all of this work, this inner work, what happened after that, or who did you become? Because I know I would have given a little bit of your bio, but who did you become after all of this work with these two young kids?
Thank you, Shen, for asking that. I think I became more open. I think my heart just opened more, and I less judgmental, less critical. I wanted to say that what helped me a lot too is I went around the house, I put affirmations up. I remember having a friend came over and said, why do you have all these positive sayings around you and all these slogans and these pictures and all, and now, of course, look at what big business it is, right? It's so mainstream now, because I was trying to impress upon me, my subconscious, new thoughts. I wanted to, like you said, rewire my brain. And also I took a picture. I remember taking a picture of my boys and myself. They never saw it, but this was my own private, my own private inner work. And I would put affirmations and etc. The men that I was attracting into my life were so much more evolved, and I mean, are more loving, kind. They were so sweet with me. I just attracted so many wonderful opportunities. You know, every place I went, like even when I was teaching in the Mommy and Me classes, I had the most wonderful parents. When I'm teaching at the university, I had the most wonderful students, and I was able to connect from heart to heart. If I get triggered, it's a gift for me to learn where inside of me needs more love, where inside of me needs more acceptance.
Yes, that is so true. And you're so right. All of these so-called negative situations, they really teach us about compassion when we realize it's really about how we process what is happening. And healing through compassion is actually one of my underlying slogans for this series that I do, because I believe once you learn how to look at someone who is doing you something that may not be nice through a compassionate lens, it changes the whole atmosphere, it changes how you feel, it reduces your stress. They may not change, but the way you react to certain situations change, and you're able to live more free. So Susan, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your story on our Woman Who Inspires series. You are definitely a woman who inspires. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We will see you guys again. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.